All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Plus U 2, following Parting the Veil Live. This is me, Desryn, and my lovely co-host, Mr. Redbeardflynn. You want to say hi?
Hi, everybody.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Hopefully everything's working well. Uh, I will let everyone know ahead of time. I still have a bit of a cough, so I might just randomly mute myself and look like I'm dying over here. So don't mind that. I think Redbeard will carry us through.
That was not part of the contract that I signed.
Yeah,
I'm
everyone's
just
sick
listening to
tonight.
Faith.
Everyone's sick, man. But yeah, what a interesting stream. I think I was caught a little bit by surprise as far as like what exactly this was going to be about, right?
I think we both were because I wasn't entirely sure. I wasn't expecting to hear about the boots of oh shit I found a trap. Uh,
Exactly.
like that was or the shield of Perseus. Like those were things I wasn't expecting. But the talk about the item abilities was really or not item abilities, class
Yeah,
abilities
yeah,
was
yeah.
really interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree, man. There's definitely going to be some stuff to talk about. I see we've already got some folks in our green room here.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I don't want to talk too much and get all the points out of everyone here. So maybe we grab someone real quick. And thanks for what was that? Oh,
Gula
thanks,
Gula.
Gulo. Appreciate you, bud. I think we'll start with let's get Mox in here. I think Mox has stuff to say. So uh, go ahead and unmute yourself, and I'll drag you right in here and see what you have to say. Hey, what's up, Mox?
How are you guys doing?
Hey, Mox.
Pretty dang good, man. One second. I just got to fix my camera stuff here.
It doesn't have a filter. It won't get any better.
Oh, no. I broke it. I broke it super hard. Well, while I work on fixing that,
Well,
so,
we just got Sting
yeah,
in
we've
there.
just got
That's
Redbeard's shelf there. That's totally my bad.
I'm trying to
Um,
see what titles he has back there. Is that My Pretty Pony and Pretty Princess?
Probably. Yeah.
yes.
So I probably won't be able to fix that, I'm gonna be
Special
honest.
edition.
But yeah, let's let's get some info from you, man. Like what's on your mind? What came up for you for this stream?
Well, obviously, I mean, I had a question that got answered. I was super excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking about like the Mask of Deception and the bracers from EQ and all that gave illusions when I gave that question. So it was kind of cool to hear that there will be items that do illusions. But then he hit us with that huge bean of customizable illusions.
Yes. Huge drop for enchanters.
Yeah, and that's my preferred class at this point. I really want to do that, so I was like super excited to see that. I like, I love the idea of being able to navigate places that you wouldn't normally be able to, based on those illusions. So it'll be interesting to see how they implement it. Will it be a very EQ way of you're okay as long as you don't attack, or will certain NPCs be able to see through it? I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure. I see. I'm always really tied to the draw with like factions, and when
Yeah.
it comes to illusions, right? And it sounds like enchanters are going to have a lot of power when it comes to that kind of gameplay because, I mean, we can probably guess that enchanters going to have a lot of charisma, right? And since
Right.
they recently revealed a little bit about what charisma is going to do, I feel like enchanters are going to be very, very powerful as far as like progressing through faction and trade and stuff.
Yeah, they're gonna be great out in the world, but then like it just in the cities and dealing with, like you said, dealing with factions, it's gonna be a really different type of gameplay that we haven't seen since a game like EverQuest.
Yeah, I think that's really exciting for a game like Pantheon where they're really putting a lot into the world itself, right? And it's actually going to matter that you're going to have these. I mean, I'll say it, advantages. Like you're going to have some advantages, and it's actually going to mean something.
Right, right.
But yeah, do you have any like guess on what this like illusion craft might be like? I guess.
I think it could potentially be the ability to make limited use items, like maybe a potion of illusion or a like a scroll or something that allows you to be able to go out in the world and then apply that illusion at a later date or time, so that you don't have to
Ooh.
be there with them. Is what I'm thinking. Because I think just the idea of, I don't think it would be such an announcement for them to make if it just was simply, I'm going to cast a spell on you. It has to be more than that to me, I would think.
Well, so what came? Yeah, go ahead, Red.
No, I was just gonna say I think that's fair, for Mox's point.
See, because of my, vanguarding, right? My first thought was literally like bard song crafting, because you craft your song out of all these components, and I'm wondering like maybe the enchanter kind of like crafts an illusion based on components, and it spits out a certain race, and you just have to like know the recipe or something. I don't know, just kind of throwing stuff out there, but
yeah,
definitely fun to
the
think
fact
about.
they called it illusion crafting leads me to believe there's going to be some tangible item that will result from it, but I could be way off base on that.
True.
Like it makes me think of, it just makes me always think of image design in Star Wars Galaxies.
Yes.
And I know that was permanent. So image design in Star Wars Galaxies was profession and it was permanent, but it's just that's kind of where, when I heard crafting, that's kind of where my mind went, because there wasn't any kind of like item attached to it or anything like that, but it was permanent, which this, like, the idea of an illusion is obviously not permanent, but
right.
Yeah, that was such a good call out, honestly. Like I really wish one of the VR folks had like maybe winked at that, because anytime you mention Star Wars Galaxies and some of those really awesome like non-combat skills, I'm like, oh yeah, let them bring that in, right?
Poor Redbeard with his camera issues.
Yeah, I would love to fix it, but I realized what I did wrong, and it's not going to get fixed. Sorry. But anything else, Mox, while you're in here?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I say get somebody else in here and see what they have to say. I enjoyed the entire stream. I'm really enjoying Parting the Veil. And I actually, right at the end, when Joppa mentioned that it's going to take different forms, they will be showing stuff. I think that's desperately needed to combat the Pantheon is not going to launch.
Yeah, I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit at first, but then I'm like, yeah, it's probably needed. It's probably needed.
Yeah, they need to show like kind of where the game is, and the co-stream will go a long way to do that. But they do need to start showing more so that so that people can just see the progression they're making. I don't think they need to prove anything to anybody, but people want to see like where does it stand now.
Yeah, and I think now that we're getting some artists on and stuff, like I think we're starting to get to the point where we might be seeing that, or at least I hope. I hope.
Yeah. So I don't think they need to lift the NDA yet, though. I don't think they're ready for that. Having played the PA, I don't think that would be beneficial at this point. But down the road, I hope they consider that when they're ready.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
I think that's more like a more of a macro conversation of the general mood of backers in general of any MMO. And I mean, if you look at any MMO recently, there's one that I won't say by name, but there's been a lot of things going on. So I think in general, there's just a lot of concern about the MMO space. It's probably calmed down, but yeah, any kind of, I think, once that co-stream happens, I think a lot of that will die down. Just because co-streams tend to do that historically with Pantheon. So
yeah,
true. Well, thanks for popping in, Mox.
You have a good rest of the night. I'll talk to you later.
See you, bud. Right. Yeah, man. Enchanters, rogues, all that expanding into the class abilities, like that's just showing more class differentiation, right? And interdependency. That was a huge topic tonight, right? Is interdependency. And yeah. Well, looks like we've got one person left in our green room. We got byproducts in there. Just a reminder for anyone that's watching, if you want to get your thoughts in here, you are definitely going to get on the show tonight because we don't have many people in the green room. So what's up with that? Feel free to join our Discord, and I'll just drag you in here. All you have to do is pop into the green room, make sure your mic's working, and we'll get you on. I appreciate you.
Really
I appreciate it, Red. Oh, and thanks, man, Rohan. Look at this guy. He's not shown up on the show, but he's hanging out in chat.
So Man of Rohan is gifting subs to Theric instead of being here with us. We are 1/3 less handsome without Man of Rohan here. Probably more like 1/2.
Yeah, at least 1/2. Yeah. But yeah, I guess let's get byproducts in here. So byproducts, feel free to unmute yourself. I'll get you in here and see what you have to say. And yeah, I think he is on vacation. We're just giving him a hard time, sure, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, byproducts.
Hey,
byproducts.
How you guys doing tonight?
Doing fine. I think
I don't know about that whole like customized illusion appearance. It already takes me like 3 hours to make my character, and now I'm gonna have to be making my character for every single game.
Dude, I do wonder what that's gonna look like. Because it really did sound like Joppa was saying, hey.
The way he said it sounded like you'd be able to like customize your appearance for like every possible race. And is there going to be a gender change illusion as well? You're gonna have to do like the male and female
Yes.
version of each. Now you're talking about like
That's a lot of
60 hours
customization.
on your character.
Yeah, it made me think of you remember in World of Warcraft where you had the Worgen, I think was the first one where you had to do the human customization, then you had to do the Worgen customization,
Right.
and you did all of that in the character creator. And I remember thinking that was really weird because I came from EverQuest, which Joppa mentioned, of you pick the face of one and it corresponds to another face, and that's about it.
And that can be very dangerous. But yeah, that was a really interesting note. I wonder how that's going to play out. Because that's quite a thing to promise. I don't think I've really seen much of that, or at least not to that degree, so very interesting. Was there anything else you had of note?
Oh man, like there was quite a bit of like different little small things. There was a mention of like confirming there seemed to be confirmation that like we're gonna have shrink, which I don't think I've seen in a game since EverQuest.
I know. I took a note of that too. That was a really big thing for me. I was so excited when I wrote that down
because it's like such a simple thing that hasn't been in any other games. But then again, hasn't really been important in any other games because like you don't have. Your character doesn't take up actual physical space in the world. And so why would you need to bother shrinking your character when you can, usually get through any doorway, and you can't block doorways or anything like that. So
yeah, we don't need to have that conversation.
I'm trying to think of another game outside of EverQuest where shrink was really important, and the only one I can think of is actually one that's in development, and it just so happened to see it in one of the videos. I can't think of another game where it was anywhere near as useful.
Yeah,
it would have been useful in Dark Ages of Camelot, but I don't recall anybody having the shrink ability in Dark Ages of Camelot, so it wasn't even in there. But it could have been useful in there for like both for PvP purposes and the fact that you also did have collision.
Yeah, and that's a whole thing with like collision and shrink. I think a lot of times what these games will do is you'll collide with the environment, right? But maybe not other players, right? So shrink is still important to get through to places, which obviously, I mean, if anything's clear after the stream, it's that traversal is a very big deal in Pantheon. And so I expect them to really utilize this. Like, I don't think this was just an off-the-cuff thing.
Little holes in the wall that maybe the halfling can get through, and the gnome maybe, that nobody thinks of because, like, you can't really, like, fit into there. But you shrink yourself, and now suddenly you can get through the little hole into a whole other area, you know.
Oh my gosh! And you'd have a bunch of people standing outside of a little crack in the wall, like waiting for shrink. You know? Oh my gosh!
Whole half of a dungeon just that's like a little Putian little dungeon in there. You got to shrink down and get in there, and there's a whole area down there, but it's just inside this tiny little cave.
And it just sounds so Pantheon. But yeah, it's so funny that you pointed that out, just because I was really excited about that too. So I'm glad I'm not the only person that's like, oh my gosh, shrinking.
I think I want to point out here, because we're talking about shrink, right, which is a skill, like a spell that was in EverQuest, and so the obvious inspiration and nostalgia that comes with that. But one of the things like in this that was so cool to me is like these, like a thing that I never even thought about, which was all these different abilities for classes, like summoning a raft, summoning a vine bridge, the rogue rope, all those things that give a unique flavor to the class through traversal. And I think that's something that's kind of uniquely Pantheon, unless, I mean, someone tell me if there's been another game that's done that, but it really feels like that feels like a Pantheon thing to me. And that was when like I really perked up in the stream, was when they were talking about that.
Yeah, no, the only other thing I can think of again would be to go back to EverQuest, and it'd be really lame, just like run speed and levitate, you know.
Where, like, the new standard that this is going to set, right? Of like, wow, I have all these options. And I think, as you know, Joppa's kind of ending notes pointed out, right, was he wants that whole, you know, open your mind, like a world of possibilities kind of a thing. So yeah, very, very much.
How important is, again, like shrink, how important is traversal in any other game though? Like, how important is it that classes have unique abilities to help you get around, when in vast majority of games you just hop on a horse or you hop on a griffin and you fly away?
Yep.
I mean, oh, go ahead, Des.
No, I was just going to dote on it a little bit more, because what he's talking about is, you know, you open your mind to the possibilities, but you don't open your mind to the possibilities when there's no reason to do any of these things. And so it fits, it goes one together, right? You have to have a reason to do things to have possibilities open up in your mind. You know, other games might have all of these traversal mechanics, but then only use them for like jumping puzzles or something, you know, and not like other mechanical things that tie into other parts of gameplay. But Pantheon is, so yeah.
And if they do have traversal mechanics, they're usually not class based or anything like that, you know.
Right.
They're
It's just
more
everyone.
like dungeon based or something like that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Very good point.
Which again, like, leads into what Pantheon is trying to do with, you know, class interdependence and things like that. You know, like
class uniqueness.
Yeah, unique. Your class is unique, and they work together. And I love that these are all socials, so everyone can use the vine bridge. You know, like in your group or raid or whatever, everyone can use the rope there, and there's specific like use cases for them. And you know, it makes me think of like talking about like opening up possibilities. Just having these traversal mechanics doesn't have to be limited unless they want it to be, to just like traveling or getting to places. There's a raid in Final Fantasy 14. I'm forgetting the name of it, but part of the level drops out throughout the raid. And so just imagine like part of the ground falls out, and a rogue can use a rope to get someone back up if they fall down.
Yeah.
Or like in EverQuest, the pits when you're going to go fight Vox, bringing someone up that way, so and get them back to the raid faster. So like there's other ways you can take this and make it more integral to the game. Not that traversal is not integral, but just there's a whole world of possibilities that come with this. Like my mind started racing as soon as we were mentioning the class abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before I kick you out by products, is there anything else before we get? Looks like we've got. Oh no, I lost Oaken Air, but we do have someone else in there, so I'll grab them.
Okay.
But anything else last minute before we get them?
Yeah, sure. Well, I had a couple other things, but that's fine. I'll let somebody else take their turn. But I did have a little question to leave you with in that case. And so, if they have gliders, are we going to have parachutes?
Oh my gosh. I'm sure we'll get to that. To that.
Necromancers will have flesh parachutes.
Oh no!
I love how you turn like everything into it has to be.
Oh yeah, I'm very excited for my bone rafts, my bone bridges, my bone ropes, all of those things. Like necromancers are gonna have everything. It's,
oh my god!
Until they're announced as a full-on class, I can say whatever I want.
True, very true. That's you give a lot of freedom because your class isn't technically real yet.
Yes, I technically don't exist for my class.
All right. Well, thanks a bunch, Byproducts. Really appreciate you popping in here. Love the discussion. Have a good night.
Always.
Thank you, Byproducts.
All right. So we've got one more in the green room here. Of course, if you want to step into the green room, I'll get you after them. But this is going to be Mr. Cuddleshire, who was active in chat during the stream as well. So, Mr. Cuddleshire, if you want to unmute yourself, I'll drag you in here, and we'll get to chatting. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about this now, and I kind of hope there's no parachutes, because the whole crux of everything was that you would just die, right? You just fall out of the sky if you ran out of stamina.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. Like the idea of gliders, it does kind of. Like I know there's a whole debate about flying mounts, and gliders in general. I like until it was mentioned that it was going to be tied to endurance. I was kind of like, oh, but really, because it's another way to kind of in a little bit of a way skip past content. But when you put that kind of limitation on it, that changes it a little bit because it's much more short term, and we'll have to see how that plays out. Obviously, but
of course,
yeah.
So, okay, Mr. Cuddleshire, let's get you. All right, sorry about that. We were waxing Ariel a bit there. But how are you doing, Mr. Cuddleshire?
I'm doing all right. I'll for the record, it's Coddleshire, not Cuddleshire.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, Cuddleshire.
Dennis just wants to cuddle.
I do. It's true.
Yeah,
I'm hanging out around Red, so I'm like I'm in a cuddling mood. So what's on your mind?
I just want to start with summoning a raft. Have you even had anything like this in a game before? I don't think so.
I don't think as a class ability, not that I can recall. Obviously we've had
like
boats
maybe
and stuff, but
some like indie MMO, but definitely not in an MMO.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on anything like creating things like Vanguard. You could make boats and things like that, but like a spell, no.
Yeah, it's weird to give that kind of power to someone, right? To a class. Like, what do you think the implications are of that? Like,
I think it's pretty interesting because I imagine like this swag summoner who's like on the shore and it's like, get in, losers. We're gonna head to the island over there.
Love it. He did get pretty specific about that.
Amazing things in group context.
Oh,
that way. Especially if you could unsummon. Just I'm just thinking of how.
Yeah, interesting.
I was wondering that.
It's very interesting, I guess. But
it's actually a good point, though. Like, what is the duration of that? Will you know, or will it just disappear?
Well, I would assume there's something that's going to tell you, right? Like, and they did get a little bit specific. I thought it sounded like they were making it really clear that the raft can hold like a group amount of people. Like there was like a limit, like how many people it could hold. So like, I don't know if that means maybe if you get more than 6 people on it, like sinks, which opens up a whole other possibility, I suppose. But yeah,
or you have like 3 or 4 summoners at the same time with rafts who are like racing each other. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Was it you that said
That would be so cool.
Like raft races. Was that you that said that in chat? Because
No, I said I wanted to buy a raft for a gold.
no. Well, someone in chat said like, summoner raft races, and I'm like, yes, and it was like right when Joppa mentioned, emergent kind of gameplay, and I'm like, sure, it doesn't mean you're getting to level 50 or whatever, but like those little things like races and silly stupid stuff like that is what's gonna make this game last for a long time, man.
I think another aspect is just content creation, because I can already see a lot of aspects where, like in a lot of other MMOs, there's not a lot of venues for content creation, but like, hey, we're gonna race all these rafts, or we're gonna see how high we can climb and then sail down.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean.
Or even just like RP stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Just giving players tools has been shown to like really increase the spread of its community, I think, because when you start getting people involved, they stick around, they don't just go to the next MMO, because next MMO doesn't have, climb offs and cliff jumps and and boat races and stuff like that, right? Like it's a big deal.
Yeah. It reminds me, back in, I think it was Plains of Power, there was this server best bard, and he would jump off of like these wizard towers and like cast the levitation spell right before he hit the ground. So it's stuff like that.
He just like puts on his sunglasses and he like walks away or floats away, like oh, that's awesome. Well,
I mean, that's kind of like the theme of these two parting the veil so far, is that there's more to Pantheon than just combat, right? Like, so many MMOs do combat and they do it in good ways, but this this isn't necessarily like, in my head, horizontal progression as much as it's more ways to interact with the game, more ways to problem solve, more ways to create content, more ways to do things that I think will ultimately create a very, very interesting and rewarding environment, kind of no matter what you do, even beyond, just sitting at a camp and killing things.
Yep. Huge part of Pantheon. Was there anything else you want to bring up, Mr. Cottleshire? Now that I can pronounce your name correctly?
Correctly. It only took 8 months.
Yeah.
The only other thing I thought of was like when they were talking about gliding and falling off if you ran out of stamina. I was thinking about like, well, there's like, I'm imagining like a Castlevania-ish castle where like, oh, that's Dracula's castle. How do we get there? Well, we glide. And then I'm imagining a bunch of clerics and then just bypassers just watching people just dropping out of the sky and, making a quick buck.
Exactly. So someone in chat mentioned like, I can't wait to, just stand on the ground or I would pay, I think they said, I would pay to watch people fall from the sky running out of stamina or endurance. And I'm like, you probably don't need to, because I mean, you're going to see that a lot in these like hard to reach areas. I think people are going to try, and especially because if you're running out of endurance as you're gliding, you don't necessarily know exactly the point in 3D space, like when you're going to be done, right? It's going to take a lot of practice to really know what your limits are. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of very interesting deaths coming from that for sure.
Be interesting, because going back to the items, I wonder, when does that item take effect? So the boots, remember the boots of Ocean? I found a trap.
Yeah.
So if you fall off your glider, do you get to witness that you're about to fall off for a little bit longer if you have the boots? And because it goes into effect immediately, or will it come into effect as you're about to hit the ground, because it said hover, and hover would be slightly above the ground. So could you use those two items together to, survive?
Dude, now you're talking about like these adventure games
to get really, really deep, really fast.
Right, like stacking all of these special items, which, yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that makes the brain go fun places. That's for sure, man. It really does.
Yeah, it sure does.
All right. Well, thanks for hopping on, Mr. Kalshire. And is this your first time on the show?
Yeah, on the show, yes, it is.
Oh, well, fantastic. Thanks for stepping up. Appreciate it. But we'll hopefully see you next time then, or whenever that pans out. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Have a good night, man.
Thanks for having me.
I do, Zerger.
Yep. Who doesn't want to go hoverboarding? All right. At long last, I can finally get Okaner in here. So if you want to unmute yourself, thank you. Woohoo! All right. Finally got you on here.
How's it going?
Hey.
Hello, Okaner.
Can I give you a shout out, by the way, since you're on the show? Or is that
if you really want to, yeah, go for it.
Okay. So if any of you guys see our Pantheon Plus avatars that we have, the cool artistic versions, if you didn't know, Okaner is the one that makes those. Very talented individual.
I didn't know that.
So yeah,
you made one for me, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a big surprise, right?
Your art is amazing.
Yeah, so I've got to commend you for that. Sorry if that's embarrassing. But yeah, thoughts on the stream? Anything specific? Questions?
Well, my main points were just about my products and Redbeardflynn covered most of it. About how it's less about just combat than the main thing.
Yes.
When you play Dungeons and Dragons and you've got all of your spells, but then at least 50% of them are just random utility, conjure water, find things, etc.
And you use them too.
Yeah. Pantheon's got all that, and that it just looks so fun.
Yes.
It does. It feels like it goes back to the more of the roots of D&D than some of the more recent MMOs. It's a good point.
Absolutely. I mean, how much time you spend in combat in D&D? Let's be real. And it's still so fun.
It's just all of the utility. It's other MMOs. It's do you ever have a skill on your hotbar that doesn't kill something or heal someone? It's just missing. So
yeah, that's a super great call out. Anything tying to D&D, I can't remember the exact quote, but a long time ago, one of the devs described Pantheon as they made multiple ones actually have said something similar, but it's if MMOs, at the beginning, EverQuest, early 2000s, if they just didn't all go this one direction, Pantheon's, trying to see what if the genre had split off in another direction as well. And I think this direction is the more D&D direction, in its fullness. And it's fun to see that on the table still.
We're finally leaving the darkest timeline, arriving to where it should have been.
Maybe. Yeah, so let's see. I'm going to ask you a question if I can put you on the spot, just because.
Okay.
So one of the big kind of reveals, or maybe more hot topic issues that might come up here, was the whole idea of some of these unique items just coming from being in the right place at the right time. I wonder how controversial this is going to be, but how do you feel about maybe some of these movement items being kind of randomly available?
Honestly, I love that. I much prefer that. Because, after playing Project 99 and stuff, when it comes out, everyone knows where all of the super hot items that you need are.
Yeah.
And so they had to invent the list, the queue or something, where you join a queue of people and sit there for 3 days without sleeping trying to get it. And if Pantheon just had a static spawn and it's the anchoring comes from this one mob, you know, a couple of months later, there's just going to be like a queue of people, or you know, absolute mayhem with groups just like spawn camping and stealing it and stuff to get the ring. So
Yep.
yeah, and I think that needs to be avoided at all costs. So,
What about you, Red?
I think that's where it comes into the strength of the item and the use of the item, right? So if you make something limited time or event only, you're going to cause some strife. You know, like if it's very, very strong and like you have to have it kind of thing.
yeah.
Especially when you get into raiding and stuff like that. I still remember, you know, the EB earring for Kedge Keep and how important that was. I mean, there were ways around it, but having that was such a big deal. So I think that's when you start making things event only or very, very rare, then you have to think about the relative power of the item and how many people will be having it versus not having it. And you just think about it mathematically, like how many drops, how many, you know, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So I think there's too many variables to be like, oh, that would be good or bad. It just has to be thought of very carefully by the devs when they do it.
Yeah. My first thought was kind of like, you know, I wouldn't want it all the time, obviously. Like if all of the top end items are like fairly random to get, that's not good. Right. But the way that they described it, I think one of the examples was like perhaps two fractures kind of overlaying on top of each other, and that causing a certain situation that enables this item to drop. That kind of emergent thing, because you couldn't necessarily predict that, right? It's just something like you're clearing a dungeon and you kind of get this random, I don't know, the only word that's coming to mind is shitstorm, but just random situation.
It's not an ability, Des.
Well, if it isn't, it's going to be the nickname of one. But just, you know, a bunch of factors that end up making us, you know, something that you thought was going to be easy or thought was going to be normal way harder. But you're like, wait, but this might be a situation that enables me to get something special. Adds a little bit of extra spice and excitement to when you encounter a really unfortunate crossover of multiple things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that's how they're going to implement it or if it's going to be specific events. But really interesting. We'll see how it plays out. One thing that they touched on that I think kind of saves the controversy a little bit is how some people that maybe have these special traversal mechanics, either by abilities or these items, can help out other people, right? So
yeah.
If the rogue has the hook, you know, gets the hook shot from some random event that they, you know, manage to get through and they get a special item, it kind of means, well, sure, they can hook shot over, you know, up to this whatever thing, but then they can lower their rope to get everyone else. It's like they can bring everyone up. So it doesn't necessarily mean, because we're kind of in the frame of mind where it's like, oh, is this like a high-end item? It means everyone in the group has to have it, right?
Yeah.
So maybe they're trying to bring us out of that.
Well, and even like they were talking when the very first item that was talked about, you know, sight. And then later on at the end of the stream, they were talking about how individual races will have different abilities to see at night and things like that. So maybe some races will want that item, but then others will not need it, you know, that kind of thing. So it does create some variety. Yeah,
they're leaning into interdependency instead of just everyone has to have the item, you know. We'll see how it plays out, right? But yeah,
I also think it's good because you know when in EverQuest you see people in towns standing around and say, you know, giving away buffs for 10 minutes or whatever, just message me at the bank or something.
Oh yeah.
You know, you could have like people offering their traversal services, you know, like the rogues being your Sherpa. They, you know, they found a safe way to like climb up the cliff so you don't have to deal with any mobs to get to the top. So they'll be like, oh, I'm here for the next 15 minutes. If anyone needs a rope, just let me know.
Yeah, I would totally do that. Like, honestly, I'm such a big fan of just hanging out at places, like in MMOs. Yeah. Not so much lately, honestly, because it's not needed anymore, right? But if the opportunity is there, it just feels good, man. Maybe it's not for everyone, but it just feels good to be like, hey, I'm enabling someone else to have fun. Pretty great. Oh, is that Bajin? Thanks for the Prime, Bajin. Wow. And Tumiden's 1 gold for a druid bridge?
And we're thinking totally different ways. I'm just thinking of all the ways that a necromancer would be able to take advantage of when people fall off cliffs. So
maybe they don't have a choice.
Out in place. We're just thinking of different ways, Des, is all.
Well, Joppa did say, they have to be creative so that they can, minimize invisible walls. So if, people fall from a cliff, maybe that just enables the necromancer at the bottom to collect the bodies and build a ladder to the top, right?
Yes. Summon Corp should also, as payment, I get one of your bones. Just how it goes.
Gosh, the bone tax.
To make my bone bridge later.
Oh my gosh. Well, anything else, Okaner?
Not really. I mean, apart from that, it just felt like a recap of a lot of things they'd said in the past. But I think some of it was like over a year ago. So, it was cool to hear that they're still on track with those things.
Yeah, there definitely was some recap for sure. I think there was a bit more like detail, a little expanding on some things. But a lot of it was kind of the gist that we already knew, just with a bit more info for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think this is going to have the same kind of immediate reaction that the mountain taming did last month.
Yeah. Well, thanks a bunch for coming on, Okaner. And thanks for letting me embarrass you.
You're amazing art, by the way.
It really is amazing. I love it so much. But I hope to see you on the show again. And
see ya.
All right. Well, so currently, we don't have anyone else in the green room lined up. And I mean, it's only like, we're not even 10 till. So I'm going to call out into the chat one more time. If you want to join the green room, hop on our Discord server. I think Drax pasted it a bunch of times. Yeah, there it is. And we can get you on the show. Till then, I think I have notes, but do you have anything else, Red?
I mean, one of the things that I think we haven't covered is the temporary items. Which honestly, like when they're talking about temporary items, like may or may not get you to a raid boss kind of thing or group boss. I say raid boss interchangeably. I know like the focus with Pantheon is more on the group side at the moment, but it makes me think like it just sounds like more unique ways to think about keying, temporary keys and things like that, but using it in a different way. Like I could see, items that are temporary, like boots that will levitate you across a gap. But once you get across that gap, they're gone.
Disappear. Oh,
those kind of things.
Yeah.
Like it's still ways to make a temporary item that you have to get each time, but it still acts kind of like a keying system.
I mean, I like that idea. I feel like they were like really, really vague with this answer, though. I'm gonna be honest. Like like I'm sure they meant what they said, but what it sounded like on my end was kind of like, yeah, we want to have temporary items, and we can do this, and we could do this, and we could do this, and I was like, but will you? It's always my
That sounded like in the very far off kind of thing.
Yeah, but I love the idea. I'm a big fan of temporary items for keying. I'm actually more of a fan of temporary item keying than permanent item keying. Just because, because then it makes you actually do the content that's the precursor to the next. It can make nonlinear things slightly linear when needed, and it also prevents people from rushing to certain places. and farming it over
See,
and
I
over
think,
again.
like, for me, I kind of have the opposite approach because I guess because I like once I've done something, I guess maybe it's the EverQuest bias of how much I did not like so much of that key that I did. Thinking of, like, Vishan's Peak and stuff like that, and just how arduous it was. So I think if the keying process or temporary item process is like kill this one thing that's fun to kill, that's different than camp this for 5 hours
Oh
and then
yeah,
it's gone.
yeah.
So
If it's something that huge, you
yeah,
want it to be permanent.
well, yeah, permanent, and then like you want it to be like, I think there's a difference between, say you're like, I'm going to use Tower of Frozen Shadow as an example. And I don't think how it works, but you have all the different levels of the tower, right? And so say you're getting all these temporary items to progress up the tower. Well, then you can do that as a whole process. And then, yeah, it would suck if it's all temporary and to go back and start over from the beginning, but it's still a fun process doing it the whole time. But like a thing where you're all working together towards something, I think that should be permanent.
Yeah, I agree. It is a fun idea to tie traversal into these things, though, for sure. One thing that wasn't brought up, and I'm just like throwing this out there, but if we get a temporary bungee jump, like cord, and that, because they talked about like these one-way trips, right? So how do you get to the bottom of a chasm like safely? Bungee jump off of it, and then like cut your line and you're at the bottom. Hey, just throwing it out there, man.
And this is just me thinking, but all you need is a necromancer, because as long as you get to the bottom and the necromancer's already there, there's alternative to continue to progress.
Oh my
you don't
gosh.
need to be alive. Not with your friendly necromancer around.
Red, I'm glad you're on my side, I think. But
I was on your team for the Pantheon draft, right? So yeah.
Yep, yeah, that's where bonds are made. The Pantheon draft, that's for sure.
Yes, it is.
That is for sure. Well, I'm not seeing anyone else pop in here, so we might just have kind of an early show tonight. I think it was great parting the veil, though. Wasn't too crazy, but also reinforced that whole idea that like Pantheon's different, man. This is different, and they're not doing stuff on accident, and it's not shallow, etc., etc. Just more examples of that, right?
No, I think it just reiterated, like it really brought home a lot of what Pantheon is trying to do. Like Okaner was talking about earlier, like that whole connection to D&D, and really that kind of re-excites me about the game being a bit different than the other offerings. It's not just a replacement for EverQuest. It's something new in a lot of ways, and they're doing a lot of different things.
And that's something that I think is going to be said more and more as time goes on, right? It's like, it's more than just a replacement for EverQuest, but on that note, thanks.
We do have someone in the green room.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, let's get. See, I was just about to wrap up, but this is awesome. I don't think I've seen that before. So
no wrapping up.
All right, let me get him in here. Hello, Yoladin.
Hey, how's it going? Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
loud and clear. You sound beautiful, actually.
Thank you.
Everyone sounded beautiful today. Like, this is wonderful.
Everyone's got great equipment these days. It's pretty cool to hear. I got to check in on the stream. It's been a little bit. I've kind of been out of the scene when it comes to the MMO scene. I've taken about a 3-year break around before COVID started. So believe it or not, this was my first stream to kind of pop into to see where Pantheon has been at.
Wow. So since 3 years ago, this is where you're coming back in.
Yes. I'm a VIP, and I have not played the game, have not done anything, really just kind of just stayed off on the side and just, let time take its place when it comes to this. I knew this project has had some ups and downs, and
Yeah.
in a good way. They had to redo some things, back to the drawing board, and I knew they had a lot going on, and I figured it's the stuff they wanted to do it's going to take quite a bit of time. So this was about 3 weeks ago. I started getting back into the streaming game, with Embers Adrift now around.
Yeah,
and EverQuest. Just because I just got that feeling, man. It's right around the corner. I'm not saying like a year, but like it seems more realistic, especially for me who just watched the first stream with Joppa tonight. I see a clear roadmap. I really do. I finally, for the first time, I can actually say, okay, I think the ambition versus reality is starting to dial in a little bit more better and a little bit more organized in thought process. And I think it's a good thing. I think there's a good roadmap. I even, in my own Discord, we kind of taken some bets on now on when release date is. And I think I see a clear path.
I have to shout this out because we made that mistake. We actually, in case you didn't know, we had a competition kind of a thing. And it's turning out that we don't think that's going to work out because we were prepping for this year for alpha. But they do have a great alpha roadmap with very clear goals on it. And like Minus pointed out in the stream, that's going to be updated next week as well in the newsletter. But anyway, so since you're coming into this after like 3 years, you have obviously a very unique perspective. So this stream, was kind of about a more specific thing, right? Items and unique items for traversal and all this stuff. And I know like they've talked about traversal a lot in the last few years, a lot more than previously. So there's probably all sorts of modes of traversal that it's like fresh to you. Like, do you think compared to the Pantheon that you knew about 3 years ago, does this sound more exciting? Like that all these different avenues are available now?
For me, who is a old school niche player, I guess that's like, what we're called now. We're called boomers. Okay, boomers. And then if you're in the MMO world, you're now labeled like a niche boomer, right? So my concern is, while it's exciting for me who likes that niche gaming space of the old school MMORPG, is this game is getting a lot of attraction, right? We've seen attraction now from bigger streamers out there kind of reviewing what's the status of the game. That's kind of, I think that's where it drew me into like curiosity to see where everything is at. I take it from a different perspective from where they're seeing it. These are guys that came in playing World of Warcraft as their primary game. We came in at a different time where, MMOs were just non-existent yet. And, meanwhile, they had come into World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XI where the road map has already been placed for them. So our ambitions are a little bit different than their expectations. So my concern is, though, you're going to get those type of players, right? They're going to be interested. Pantheon's name is out there. It's well out there because it does associate a lot with Ashes of Creations because they've kind of been side by side in the development process.
Even though they're so different, timetable. But
so different. But yet they're going to put it in the same thing just because they're two indie games that kind of started up at the same time doing this, crowdfunding source project that just seems to be more crowdfunding in this niche type of market, right? In that MMORPG classic space there. They are obviously going in a whole different direction than Pantheon is. However, like you're going to get a lot of those people. They're following this and their curiosity is going to stem. And I just, with all this, traversal systems and everything going on, I don't know if it's going to be overwhelming for that average player that just loves that type of rail system. The
race to end game and like, you get what you're kind of going for with all the combat and then that's kind of like it, or
right.
Whereas Pantheon's kind of like this wide spread.
It's a wide spread, and I think the marketing has to kind of address this direction that they're going into. Otherwise, you're going to get these players that are on this other side that are watching Pantheon. Maybe not as, I've been out of that space of MMOs for 3 years, but I know the direction of Pantheon. I've been there from day one. I finished I've been playing. I played Vanguard to the very end. Ancient Port Warehouse, #1 guild. Yep, Ascendance. Whoop, whoop. So like I know that aspect. I know that hardcore rating. But these other guys that are coming in, especially with the mindset today, people want something instant. They want gratification right off the bat. This is going to require a grind. So there has to be some sort of marketing tool along the way here that's going to either like let them know before they come in. We can't just use the niche term anymore. That's kind of a too broad of a term. I think there has to be some sort of remarketing branding here that will let people know like we're going in this direction and we're not an Ashes of Creation, but you might be interested in our direction.
It's funny if you hadn't seen, actually one of the first, if not the first, Parting the Veil that they did, this new podcast format, was actually Pantheon is not niche. That was their whole argument. It was a 2-part podcast, and their whole kind of argument was that just because we hail from these roots, we're still making our own game. And that game isn't inherently niche or niche because they do the English pronunciation, but it's not inherently only for a small group of people. It's just, I think as Joppa put it, it was like, they just don't know it yet kind of a thing. Like they haven't experienced this kind of a thing. I
think I have 2 points here. First is that that crowd, if they want an on-rails experience, they're going to be disappointed in both Ashes of Creation and Pantheon because neither of them are on-rail experiences. They're both looking to be very different.
Yeah.
Ashes of Creation is more different, I think, even than Pantheon. And I think we sometimes forget that before World of Warcraft, EverQuest wasn't niche. It was the biggest MMO out there. It had, I think it peaked at like 400, 500,000 players concurrently. And it was a big game. And there was a moment where for a long time, it wasn't certain what was going to be the next big game. Was it going to be EverQuest 2 or was it going to be World of Warcraft? There's a lot of reasons, I think, why World of Warcraft ended up being the bigger game. But I think the marketing push has started with that, what Des was talking about with the we're not a niche game. I think that's kind of, and even this is kind of showing that it's not EverQuest 3. Pantheon is not EverQuest 3.
Yes.
And anyone expecting it to be might be a little bit disappointed. But I just saw a comment in chat. I think it was from our friend Coddle, who was saying that, and I'm sorry if I'm misquoting, but basically that if it's a good game, it's going to the age group will expand.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. I think that you just have to, in the current MMO space, you have to be ready for this boom and bust, and you have to plan for it, because any MMO that gets any type of hype is going to boom and then it's going to bust because people are, it's like MMO tourism right now. And you're seeing that honestly with Ashes of Creation a little bit, where Ashes of Creation was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not even released. And now there's a lot of negative press going out too. It's kind of just how this cycle seems to go.
It really
but I think
is.
as
Their
long
honeymoon just went a little bit longer than Pantheon's did, I feel.
Yes, it did.
That's the reality of that. But just to kind of piggyback what you're kind of saying there, with that, they're not saying the niche market anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's a scary thing for me. I've done a lot of marketing before, and when you say that they did come out initially when this first started. Brad McQuaid and them, God rest his soul, great guy. They did announce this was a niche game, and it became something more. It's evolved over these years, right? And it's become something very special, something that even today I looked at it, and I even looked at some videos just to see where they're at, and I'm very impressed. And then you go into Embers Adrift, and you're getting this appetizer of a feeling of like, okay, there's core elements of gameplay that we're gonna have in Pantheon are present here, and it's bringing that fun factor. But that again, that's a niche market, and the concern is while they don't say they're a niche market, if you take yourself out of that bubble, this is like when Fortnite first came out. For years, Fortnite was always in beta, So if someone didn't like the game or someone didn't like anything about the game, their fallback was Fortnite's in beta. And it came out of beta not too long ago, like 2 years ago, and the game's been out for a while. But in that space, they got to stay under this umbrella. So if you're going to leave that umbrella, well, while you have this big game that's putting comparison side to side, Ashes of Creation, Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, 2 totally different games. If you take yourself out of this niche space, then you got to come up with a marketing strategy here that's going to, okay, we're not a niche game, but we are our own separate entity to what's happening there. Because it almost feels like from a fan, and I'm just a fan of both games, is if Ashes comes out first, and everyone gets involved with Ashes, including this community and other communities.
Oh, because we will. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And you had mentioned about EverQuest 2 and World of Warcraft. EverQuest 2 did come out first, but obviously World of Warcraft ran better on machines. It was more stable and it offered a different experience. That became home, right? So if this game comes out, Ashes, and it becomes considered the home, and then Pantheon comes out later, my concern is, no matter who, it's going to go from Ashes to this, and they're going to be like, well, it's not Ashes. You know what I mean? If Pantheon can sneak under that umbrella and get in like maybe a year before they launch, then we might get a different player base where people that were really excited about this game stay, they go and check out Ashes, but then they say, well, this isn't Pantheon, because now Pantheon is now labeled as their home turf.
You know what's interesting about that, though, is that I'm not going to bring up a whole graphics discussion, but there was a similar argument said there with the whole EQ2 versus WoW, where EQ2 kind of had overall a higher fidelity graphics, but WoW had, it ran better. It was, all that stuff. And I think a lot of people compare Ashes to Pantheon and be like, well, Pantheon isn't, let's be honest, it's never going to be as graphically impressive as Ashes of Creation. But again, they're not trying to. And I think what it all comes down to is it's very obvious to me whenever you watch any content for Pantheon, the developers are keen on one thing, and that's fulfilling their own vision. Making as good of a game as they can for their own sake, basically. I mean, obviously they want other people to play it, but this is the game of their passions. And it hails back to the earlier days before MMOs were really popular, I think, to where they were fruits of passion. It was just I really think this would be a really fun thing to do. Let's try to build it. And not to say Ashes doesn't have that. Obviously, there's passion there. But I think Pantheon's kind of advantage is everything they talk about has to do with, we're building a game that's going to last decades, from the get-go. And sure, if Pantheon comes out after Ashes, I feel pretty confident that it's going to offer a different enough experience. The graphics won't be so bad. And it will still captivate an audience that's going to last a long time. We'll see how it all plays out, but it's interesting to hear your thoughts, coming back into this, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, we're seeing that WoW EverQuest kind of war kind of slowly coming up, but both companies don't want that. They want to both have succeed. Any company wants each other to succeed, because the more that everyone succeeds,
rising tide is all ships, and they're big on that with VR and Ashes. If you didn't know, they go back and forth a little bit. It's pretty fun. We like each other.
Yeah, no, and I in years past they would go in a lot of support for each other off of on MMORPG.com. This is when I was really into the game, as far as the game on the social media side between the two respective teams here. The thing is, my thing is, Pantheon will offer, I feel, more of an immersive experience than we're gonna see from Ashes. Yes, Ashes is going to offer this township and all this wonderful building and stuff, but there's something of repetitiveness there still, no matter what I see from Ashes. It's going to be a home base for, I think, the more the World of Warcraft player base. I think that's their next one. But then even they have to continue with, they have to look out for the big Riot MMO that's going to be coming out that we don't know about that's got a lot of hype. Riot's a very successful company. Any game they come out with has been gold. Valorant, their latest one, has been super successful among the other titles that we all know about. So I think there's going to be a space for Pantheon. I think it's going to get some of that, well, this game has slow combat mechanics, and it's going to be like, well, that's intended. That's the intention of this game, of their style of game versus
try it. You might like
style.
it.
That's the marketing I want to see. I don't want to see a marketing where I think we all remember the great game Rift, and their biggest marketing right before launch was, you're not in Azeroth anymore. So you put yourself out there as like direct competition to the number one workhorse MMO at the time, who just numbers were just through the roof before Final Fantasy 11, I think, even got off running. I just want them to, if from a marketing standpoint, they got to come up with something that just separates them, in my opinion, from Ashes, and it has to be addressed for a good amount of time. It's something that should be in interviews for a year, and then the player base will see this in interviews, and those big content creators will see that and will respond to that. Yes, well, they sure make kind of fun of it, but they'll walk away from it and they'll say, well, they're a different type of game, and then that'll bring in a whole different player base, and they'll separate the two, because they're going to come out within the same year. They're both on pace.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out. I mean, who knows? But yeah, I think they're very confident in who they are. They know they're building something a little different. So I think it's on track for what you're hoping for, man. We might be a few years. But
yeah, I just really hope that we're far removed from the WoW killer argument, because that was so, I think, detrimental to the MMO space.
Oh,
that
gosh,
whole kind of trying to replace WoW was just not beneficial. And Rift is a prime example. Rift had a lot going for it. It took a lot of good things from Warhammer Online, like with the public questing and things like that. It had a very good PvP system, and then that you're right on with that marketing. Not a same with speaking of Warhammer Online, that's what they tried to do. Immediately take on World of Warcraft, and they tried to rush it out.
Yep. And hey, we're just Pantheon. We'll just try to beat ourselves, I guess. They're only going to try to improve a genre that they're kind of creating or recreating, I guess, after many years. So we'll see how it goes. But
to circle back to the stream, that's kind of like, this is what Pantheon is, not how Pantheon necessarily is just like pointing out like the differences, but this is what the game is, like specifically focusing on the game itself and not as comparisons to other games.
Yep, that's a great point. This is a great stream to show like, hey, here's what we're doing different. I'm gonna say, I think we should probably wrap it up, though, just because I notice we are getting a little off topic of the stream itself. But I do really appreciate you coming on here. And just to make sure, is it Yillidan?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. Well, thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate your thoughts. Are you planning on coming back to the community and hanging out more, or?
Yeah, no, I'm back. I actually created I have 2 Twitch channels. I have one that's dedicated I was doing for my son with Fortnite. And believe it or not, I tried my best in the last 2 weeks to get him away from that, to see if I can get him to play an old school MMO. So we've been streaming it together, and I had him on camera, and it's been great to see his expressions on how difficult this game is. He just makes fun of the graphics. And then today we did our first group, an Orc Hill. And to see him just be like, Dad, I don't know what to do here. This is kind of overwhelming. And I made him make a mage, and it was, to make it as easy as possible. But he liked it, but at the same time, he was like, I don't know. I'll leave it with this. He was like, I don't think it's for me. And then I said, well, I'm going to take all your stuff then. And then he sent me, after the stream, he was like, you can't take my stuff. I'm going to keep playing. I'll just keep playing. So he's helping it out. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
But I am back. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I hope to continue seeing you in the community. Thanks for hopping on the show. And I'm glad this is a stream you popped in on. It's cool.
Oh, Drak's one of my good friends. So Drak told me that you guys were streaming. I messaged him. I used to help him and Minus with setting up OBS and everything
that's
in the early days. I've been on Minus's stream quite a bit when he used to have his streams back in the day on the Pantheon Plus on YouTube. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, have a good night, bud. Thanks a bunch.
You too, guys. Stay safe.
All right, Red.
Yes.
I think it's time, man. I've gone over pretty much all my notes. We got a bunch of good conversations. Man.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I think we went a lot longer than we thought we were going
to. yeah, for sure. But thanks everyone for sticking around. Awesome that folks caught the PTV. If you didn't catch the PTV, I'm sure it's going to be up on YouTube any moment now. And I guess we'll see you next month. And of course we have the other Plus U that'll be showing up after the regular developer live stream. And I mean, Red, do you have anything that's going on in the near future that everyone needs to know about?
Just weekly YouTube videos on MMOs.
Yeah, we're all kind of making the rounds, right?
On this tomorrow, most likely, if as long as I don't sleep. And maybe covering another game that we mentioned next week.
Awesome. I can't wait, man. Well, thanks a bunch, everyone. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much, everybody.